The Return of the Twelves by Pauline Clarke. Chapter 15, Where? "Max! Jane!" called Mrs. Morley up the attic stairs. "Can you bring the soldiers down, or must Mr. Housen climb up?" "Maxie!" Jane said, shaking his shoulder gently. "He's here! Mr. Housen, stop crying, Max!" "Coming, Mummy!" she called from the door. But she knew what Max was thinking. He was thinking how puzzled and hurt the patriarch and the duke and the others would be to be treated as wooden, and with no thoughts or feelings. She was thinking the same herself. She was wondering about Cracky, aged 5, and Monkey, and poor melancholy Gravy, whose spirits she already had to encourage by loving him especially. Who had taken them? Who was turning them over now and looking at them, and putting them head first in a box or somewhere? "Max will have to go. Come on," she said, going to the attic door. "Stump sings songs," remarked Max miserably, getting up and scrubbing at his eyes. And the thought of Stump's brave climb made his tears start again. Side by side they went down the attic stairs, slowly and soberly. Max ran his hands down the banisters. "Their string," he sniffed, noticing it and remembering the adventurous descent. "We'll find them. I expect Mummy'll think of something," said Jane. They presented themselves at the drawing-room door. Jane smiled, a faint and sad smile, and traces of Max's tears still showed. Good morning," Jane said. Good morning, Jane and Max," Mr. Housen replied. Their father came in from the garden. "Where are those famous soldiers now?" he said. "I'm quite looking forward to seeing them again myself. Max monopolizes them in the attic, you know," he explained. "Didn't you bring them down, Jane?" said her mother. "What's the matter?" "They're not there," Jane said. "They've gone," sniffed Max. The three adults stared at the children, trying to fathom the meaning of the distress on their faces. "You mean you've lost them, the whole lot, this time?" said their father. "They were there last night. We haven't lost them," Jane said. "They just aren't there now. Mummy, the window was open," Jane finished helplessly. "Max," said his father, "you haven't hidden them, have you?" he asked, for his wife had been describing to him Max's intense attachment to the soldiers, and he wondered if Max was unwilling to show them to Mr. Housen, and whether poor Jane was shielding Max. "No," said Max, "I haven't." He looked at Mr. Housen, who understood the expression on his face, and said quickly, "I'm sure he hasn't," and did not smile. "Jane, do you mean you think someone may have stolen them?" her mother asked. "The window is open, you see, and you know the creeper comes right up," Jane said. "You know, with this idea in the paper of their being worth £5,000, it's quite possible, isn't it?" said Mr. Morley, "that someone would try to take them." "More than possible, I'm afraid. I thought of it at once," said the parson. "But, Roderick, how could anyone know where they were, or which was the attic? Anyway, it's a very high, dangerous climb," Mrs. Morley remarked. "Have you looked up?" "Things get about. Let's go and inspect," said their father at once. They went out of the back door and stood in a row, looking up at the open attic window and the creeper. "He'd have the pipe to help part of the way," Mrs. Morley said. "Look, if someone's been up the creeper, there'll be broken branches and twigs," said Mr. Morley, and he went to examine it. There was not a broken twig or crushed leaf or bruised patch of bark anywhere as far as they could see. The paint on the pipe was unscratched, and as Max looked up, he thought of Stumps, and an idea came into his head. "It's more likely someone who has the run of the house," said the parson. "Perhaps," he added, for this seemed a nasty thing to suggest. "But no one sleeps in. I only have my daily, and there's Bill," said Max's mother. "Bill helps me. He knows. He spoke of it to me. But I don't distrust Bill." Then Mrs. Morley said, "Oh, Jane, have you asked Philip? Philip may have taken them, borrowed them, put them safely somewhere ready for this professor. Have you heard, Mr. Housen, of the American professor may be coming?" "I did hear a rumor to that effect in your village. I was rather upset at the idea of their going to America." "They're not going," Max said furiously. "Where's Philip? I'll kill him if he's taken them." Max, don't be so violent. He can't hurt them," Mrs. Morley said. At this minute, Philip circled into the yard on his bicycle. Max dashed at him and seized the handlebars. Where are the soldiers? Have you taken the soldiers? He screamed angrily. Of course I haven't. Why should I? Philip replied, also angry, because he knew Max was hurt about what he had done. And if you have injured another person, it is hard to be decent to him. How do you do, Mr. Howson? He added, in his most grown-up manner. They've gone, announced Jane. Someone pinched them for the 5,000, Philip said at once, and then everybody began explaining why this was so difficult. Look here, said Mr. Morley, at last to Mr. Howson. Do you think I ought to tell the police just how valuable are they? Are they worth all that money? Are they historically interesting enough to be at Haworth? In other words, are they the Brontes' soldiers? But I haven't seen them, you see, said Mr. Howson. It's an artificial value, of course. But if there were proof they were, this man's willing to pay that much. That's what gives them value to the general public. If I thought they were Branwell's, I would want to put them in the Haworth Museum, he finished. Of course. Mr. Morley looked at Philip. You've seen them lately, Phil, to read the description in the book. What do you think? Do I tell the police? Ask Max, Philip said. Max thinks they're the Bronte ones. Jane does too, I believe. Do you, Max? Max looked concerned. He was quite agile enough in mind to see what was coming. He looked at Jane as if for help. Yes, he said at last. Why? Said his father. Why? Said his father, and he sounded fiercer than he was because he was puzzled. Just tell us why, Maxie, said his mother, but Max said nothing. Did you find something with them that gave you the idea? She went on gently. No, you saw the bit of rag they were in. Have you found anything else in the attic? Asked his father. To do with the Brontes? No, said Max dully. Well, what gave you the idea of calling them the 12s? And those names, Butter and Stumps, Philip asked, joining in the questioning. I can't explain, Max said. Do you know, Jane? Yes, but I can't explain, she said. Mr. Morley looked explosive and was probably only restrained from blowing up by the presence of the parson. We can do nothing to help you get them back unless you tell us all you know, he said. I can't go to the police about any old wooden soldiers, Max, but I can go to them about the Bronte soldiers, for which America will pay 5,000 and for which Haworth will soon be clamoring. Do you see? Max saw. I don't want you to go to the police, he said. And in the pause which followed this, a motor car was heard turning into the yard. It was the reporter. Max drew in his breath, but nobody else said anything. The reporter got out of his motor car and walked over to this silent group of people, and his step became rather timid as he approached. Jane was sorry for the reporter, and when he smiled as if he were happy, and she knew he was not, she smiled back in sympathy. I'm sorry to intrude, he began, but I wondered if the young man who found the Bronte soldiers had changed his mind. Mr. Morley turned all his puzzled rage upon the poor reporter. I don't know where you heard my son had found any soldiers, he said, but there is no proof that the ones he found were anything to do with the Brontes, and there's no question of your seeing them as they have now disappeared. Disappeared? Said the reporter, smiling. A good story. Stolen, after all, £5,000. We do not think it likely, and I've no more to say, so will you please keep the thing out of the paper? But the reporter thought it more than likely because it was a story. But where can they have gone if they haven't been stolen? He said. I don't doubt, said Mr. Morley with irony, that they have climbed out of the window and walked off on their own. Good morning to you. Come along, Mr. Howson. Come and have a drink. I'm more than sorry about all this. He led the way to the house. Max's eyes went bright again at his father's remark, and his mouth curled up. Jane looked quickly at the reporter and faintly blushed. Mr. Rochester noticed both these things before he turned away with the Morleys. Leaving the two younger children in the yard, the reporter gazed thoughtfully up at the house and the swinging attic window. And that is the end of chapter 15.